Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am so glad to be back with you guys for another art enrichment lesson. This is another two-part video. Today is going to be part one. We are going to be making different kinds of special paper. Then in part two, I am going to go live with you guys and we are going to use that special paper and we are going to make a landscape with it. But it's not going to be just any kind of landscape. It's going to be a riverscape where we're going to have the land up here and we're going to have a reflection down here. Let me show you guys a picture of what that looks like. Alright, so I know not everybody has paints at home, so I scavenged around my whole house and I came up with a bunch of different ideas in case if you don't have paint or in case if you just want to try something new. So, the materials you're going to need today: paper, a few pieces of paper, and I happen to have paint, so I am going to use paint, but I'm not going to only use paint. I'm going to use several other things. I have around my house these really cool things. These are watercolor pencils. These are new for me. I just recently got them and I wanted to give them a try as well. Something else that can help you make paint: markers. Yes, they can help you make paint. Alright, some other alternatives to paint. I've already shown this to you guys. We got some food dye. So just add this to water and you have some instant watercolor paint. Another regular art material you can use would be if you have some acrylic paints laying around or anything like that. Just add this to water and again you have watercolor paint. There are lots of different ways to make paint. Now those are traditional art supplies that make paint. You also have non-traditional art supplies that can also make paint, and I wanted to show you guys some of the cool stuff that I thought of. This is not necessarily going to make paint. This is sidewalk chalk, and instead of painting the paper, you would just rub the paper with the sidewalk chalk and you can blend it together and your fingers are going to get nice and messy, but this will give you a nice full coverage to make special paper. Some other things you could use: coffee. So you pour coffee into a little bit of water and now you have a bunch of brown paint. Now, you only have one color if you leave it like that, but if you add a little bit more water, you're going to get a lighter brown color. So, non-traditional supply. Pretty awesome. Another really fun one that I thought of is I have this stuff. This is kind of like Kool-Aid. If you have Kool-Aid laying around your house, you can totally use this as paint. Isn't that awesome? I have lots of different colors in here. And then the last one that I thought was kind of cool, kind of out there, is you can take candy. What you would do for candy is you would split it up into like 5 pieces of red, 5 pieces of yellow, 5 pieces of green, and you would take just a little bit of water in a cup and you would drop the candies in there and you would let them sit for about an hour or 2 hours, and then you want to take the candies back out and the shell has released all of its color and now you have some paint as well. So there are tons and tons of different supplies you can use if you don't have regular paint on hand. Some other things you're going to need today, of course, is a paintbrush. But don't worry if you don't have a paintbrush. You can even use your finger. It's going to be really, really fun. And you are definitely going to need some water. All right. So I'm going to flip you guys around and I'm going to show you guys how to make this special paper. And then tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'm going to go live right here on YouTube. And I want you guys to come with your special paper. Come if your paper's not ready yet anyway. And together we are going to make a landscape. I'm super excited about this. I hope you are too. Let me flip you over and let's get to work. All right, so I've got my mess mat set up. I've got my paper here. I want to come down to just one piece of paper. And for the first page, I am going to use my paints. I know some of you guys do have paints at home, and that's why I want to use them as well. Here is my water. Now I know I was silly and I drank a sip from my water, but now this has become paint water and I will no longer drink it. Alright, I'm going to choose this nice big brush. This brush is called a flat brush. This brush is called a round brush, and you guys can see why they're called that. This brush is kind of like a flat brush, but you see how it's kind of cut right here? This is called an angled brush, and this angled brush helps give you lots of details. A flat brush is going to help cover lots and lots of area on the paper. This is a brush that came with the paint set. I hardly ever use this brush. I always like to have some kind of other brush on hand. An alternative to brushes, of course, are going to be your own hands. Yes, you get messy, but hey, sometimes in art we got to get messy. So when I do the markers, I'm going to show you guys how I use my fingers instead of paintbrushes. All right, so one of your papers we're going to leave nice and big. This is going to be the main background paper. This is the paper that all of our other special papers are going to get glued onto. So this, I want to make it look like a sunset is happening. And so we are going to need to have a reflection going on. Right here in the middle, I'm going to start off by painting it yellow. Dip my brush, squeeze it on the edge of the cup, swirl it on the yellow, dip it again, get a little bit more water. There we go. You want to have your watercolor paints what I call juicy. It means there's lots of water in there and there's lots of paint on the brush. Okay, so straight across the middle, I'm going to paint yellow. And I don't want it to be all exactly the same color yellow. Do you see how I kind of dip my brush in the water without getting more paint? That is going to let the watercolor paint be different colors. Now I want to go up a little higher than I think I should and come down a little lower than I think I should, because this way we can mix our orange paint in. Get this orange, mix it, mix it, mix it. And while my paper is still a little bit wet, I want to mix it in. Oh, this orange looks yellow. And I don't seem to have any more oranges over here. So I happen to have one more paint set. This is the one out of my classroom that I was able to go grab when they let me into my classroom for one time. And so this one has a better orange. This is probably the color paint set that you guys have at home. There we go. Paint right over that yellow. Lots of water. All right, then get more color. And I'm going to come right up here. This is what I call the real sky up here. And down here, this is the water reflection sky. So I want the one up here to be darker. So I'm going to use more paint so that it's darker. There we go, and have it go up pretty high. And now we are going to switch to red. Swirly, swirly, swirly. Swirly, swirly. And let the red and orange mix together. Paint. My water cup was on my white paper. we go. So my sky itself is done, but now I need to finish up the reflection. So get more paint, but my reflection, remember, I wanted it to be lighter. So I want to have less paint and I want to have more water. So I just noticed something very interesting about this paint mix palette that I have over here. It comes with a white watercolor paint. When I was in college, I had a professor tell me that there's no such thing as white watercolor paint. But now I have one. Now I kind of want to try it out. So, just curious. Always be curious. Always explore. I'm going to take this beautiful paper and I'm going to set it aside so that it can dry. So now I want to go into my different kinds of papers, different things, supplies, that's what I was trying to say. And you can leave the paper whole, but I want to split my papers in half so that I have even more variety of different kinds of special papers. So right here, I'm just going to rip the paper straight down the middle. And you know what? It doesn't even matter if this gets ripped even or not, because tomorrow when we make our landscapes, we're going to be ripping the papers anyway. So if you mess up, oh well. There. See, mine's not perfect and I don't even care. Right here, I wanted to use some of this chalk. This belongs to my daughter Rose, that's why her name's on here. And so I want to do greens and blues. Ooh, that makes a noise on the paper. This is my favorite color, blue. Okay, you can leave it like this, but I don't want to leave it like this. You could get a tissue or one square of toilet paper and you can rub it around. I don't mind getting messy, so I'm just going to use my finger. Rub it in. Let it smudge everywhere. And now I have a piece of specialty paper. Alright, so again, set this one aside. Let's try some more supplies. Hold on, I'll be right back. I want to go wash my finger. Okay, all clean. Put these away. Always clean up as you go. Makes it easier. So, I got my little half piece of paper. I poured my instant coffee into here, and I want to see what this is going to look like. I'm going to choose my round brush, dip it in, mix it up a little bit more. Oh, that's pretty light already. Add a little bit of extra water, thin it out. Not so much liking that right now. Maybe I should have used less water in my cup. So here's a little bit more instant coffee. Instant coffee works a little bit better than regular ground coffee. With regular ground coffee, you have to take the grinds out. So I'm actually going to pour this directly on here. Who knows? Experiment. Have fun. There we go. That's a much darker colors. This could be a good tree trunk paper. Okay, I'm having a lot of fun with this. There we go. I like my messy paper. I think this one's going to be fun. It's going to add like a little weird element in there. I could almost see these being like rocks at the base of the mountain. Okay, set this one aside. let's get some more paper and try some other supplies. Move that coffee out of the way. Definitely don't leave the brush in the water. Remember, don't let Mr. Brush drown. I'm using this as a catch for my paintbrushes. That's why I'm kind of like leaving it there. Okay. So next, take another piece of paper. Again, you can leave it big. You can make it small. It's up to you. The markers is what I want to show you guys next. So flip the paper back over, run your thumb over it again, and that'll help it rip a little bit straighter. Okay, so markers and water. They have to be washable markers. If they're not washable, it does not work. So if you have like some fun fancy markers at home and they don't come off the paper very easily, that's not the kind of markers you want. You really want the washable kind of markers. Okay, so I'm going to stick with these three colors right here. When I do this, I'm just going to take my finger. You see? It turns it into like a paint. The marker line is still there. That's okay with me. The marker line can stay. But all around it, now it looks fuzzy. And I really think that is super, super cool. Just doing some abstract line stuff. You can use a paintbrush if you want to. Let the two colors mix together. Creates this really beautiful violet purple. That's not the right word. Alright, I kind of like this one. Rinse my brush off, squeeze it. Now I'm going to set this one aside and do one more. So I got my other half of paper, put my markers away, and this is probably the item that you don't really have in your house. I had to go out and purchase this. I did that a few weeks ago. So my brand new watercolor pencils. I am trying to keep with earth tones because I know I'm doing a sunset landscape. So I want to stick with the browns, maybe some blacks, some greens. Now if I want to, I can actually draw really sharp stuff. Like I can actually draw grass. I can mix in some dark green down here. And then the beauty of these pencils is you don't have to keep them regular color pencil lines. You can use a paintbrush, and when you go over it, it really, really turns into watercolor paint. It's really fun. You can also go back and you can take the pencil, and if you need an area to be darker, you can color right on top of it. You can spread the paint again, or you can take your pencil, you can dip it straight into water, and you can draw over here too. Not really my favorite thing to do. I like to just lay down color. And then paint. Now, none of these papers should look like mountains or trees or anything like that. We just want to make some really fun, funky papers. If you want to do pinks and purples and stuff like that, and you want to have an out-of-this-world landscape, that's totally up to you. This is your paper. You design it any way you want. I'm going to finish this up really quick. Okay, there we go. I finished up all of my papers that I want to do. If you guys want to make more and more papers, that is totally fine. These papers can be used for anything. If you have a birthday coming up, you can use this technique. You can make some special papers. You could cut words out and glue them onto a card for somebody. There's endless possibilities. You don't have to just do this for this one project. You can use this in other things as well. I'm going to quickly go grab all my other papers and spread them out for you guys to see. There we go. These are just a few different ideas. I even showed you even more things you could use around your house. If you have any other ideas as well, go ahead, try them out. We want to make some fun, funky papers that we are going to cut apart and we are going to glue onto our background paper to make our watercolor ripped paper landscape. Whew, that's a lot of words. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Hopefully you can join me on my live at 2 p.m. on Friday. Happy creating!